What's up, guys? All right, welcome. We are finally in the summer, definitely in the summer of May of 2024. If you've been watching all the prior episodes, we just got done with April. April from the epic UFC 300 gets us into UFC 301. Three events here in the month of May of 2024. Of course, we're going to talk about UFC 301, UFC St. Louis, which was top three fight night of the year. UFC St. Louis absolutely delivered. That was on May 11th. And then they end the month on May 18th in the Apex. Really cool main event. We'll get into that in a second. But let's start. First event in May of 2024 was UFC 301. And we look back on this now, and in the meantime, they overstacked UFC 300. So when UFC 301 came along, Pantoja and Usyk as the main event, I was one of those people. I think we, as a community, were disappointed. I didn't have the name recognition, didn't have a big fight feel. But one thing that they did, and I think they did a great job. For one, they went back to Brazil. It was the first time they went to Brazil for a pay-per-view in a long, long time. I remember how jacked John Anik was to be back in Rio de Janeiro for UFC 301. Pantoja is the main event. Probably the biggest story to come out of it was the co-main. It was the coming out of retirement of Jose Aldo, one of the all-time greats. Jose Aldo versus Jonathan Martinez, a young stud in his own right. That kind of came out of nowhere. So that was definitely the pop that this pay-per-view needed. But let's not skip over the main event. Pantoja wins. That's all that man does, right? He wins again later on in 2024. One of the best fighters of the year. Pantoja beats Steve Usyk via unanimous decision. Really good fight. People crapped about the main event. People crapped about this card, but the card delivered. The pay-per-view card was very good. Very good fights, good stoppages, a really good card. Pantoja wins the main event. Jose Aldo in his return fight in Brazil wins the co-main event. Doesn't get better than that. I remember the artwork and the pictures, and he had the crown that night. Everything about it was amazing. Jose Aldo, one of the greatest of all time, returned in the UFC in Brazil. Pretty cool. Probably the thing, a couple months, January, February, I talked about it. How about these fighting nerds, guys? Kaio, light heavyweight, second round TKO against Paul Craig. And then Mauricio Ruffy wins. So the fighting nerds go 2-0 for UFC 301 in the month of May. That gym, all they did was win all year long. Telling you guys, great card, very underrated card. Go back, look at UFC 301. Doesn't have the mega superstars, or it came off of UFC 300, and there's a couple pay-per-views in the summer that are phenomenal. So this gets lost in everything, but UFC 301 was awesome. Bonuses were Kaio and Ruffy, and also Michel Pereira gets his second bonus of the year. So there you go. So that was the first event. The second event of May of 2024 is this heavyweight matchup of Derek Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento, my fault. Derek Lewis. But guys, this card was awesome. I'm telling you, to me, it was the second or third best fight night of the whole year. A little bit over 16,000 people came to this arena in St. Louis. Derek Lewis gets a third round TKO to win the main event of UFC St. Louis. Definitely was the icing on the cake. But the cake, incredible wins by so many other guys. That's kind of the co-main, once again, remember when earlier in the year, Buckley won a co-main in New Jersey. He wins his co-main here via unanimous decision in St. Louis. But St. Louis, Buckley wins. Sean Woodson wins. Charles Johnson wins. And all those guys had great 2024s. And I think this was the momentum starter. It was the Kickstarter of all those guys having a great 2024, having the show in St. Louis. Chase Hooper gets a win. Tabitha Ritchie gets a win. Guys, if you haven't watched this event ever, go back to watch it. Or if you only watched it once, it is definitely worth a second watch. It was second or third best fight night of the year. Great show. St. Louis in the middle of the month on the 11th. Bonuses, the fight was Trey Waters versus Billy Goff. An incredible fight. Go back and watch that. Carlos Oberg and also Diego Ferreira gets a bonus that night. So there you go. I just named 11 guys that was on that card. Just a phenomenal show. And then we end it with the Apex card. Like I said, on the 18th, May 18th, Ron Murphy, who keeps his undefeated streak alive, he defeats the great Edson Barbosa via unanimous decision. Yeah, so guys, LaRon Murphy wins the main event. Great fight in the featherweight division. It's one of those fights, if you haven't seen in a while or never watched it, I know it happens, right? We get busy, fight nights come and go. Go back and watch this main event. Really good fight. Murphy almost got Barbosa out early in the fight. Barbosa comes back, a legend of the sport. Murphy is definitely a top prospect to watch in 2025 now. So great fight night for the Apex. Also winners on that card, Adrian Yanez gets back in the winning column. Angie Hill and Vanessa Demopoulos both get wins. The bonuses was that Murphy and Barbosa fight. I'm telling you guys, an underrated fight of 2024. For sure. It's probably top 10, top 8 fight of the year. I thought it was really good. They get a bonus. The winner of the co-main event, Chaos Williams, gets a bonus. And like I said, Angela Hill got a bonus. So great card. One of the better Apex shows. It's not a ton of name value on it, but if you watch the fights itself, it's a really good card. The St. Louis card, I thought on May 11th was maybe even better than the pay-per-view. St. Louis card was great. And then the pay-per-view, it is what it is. There's not a major name on it. I know Pantoja retains his championship a couple and stills in a row in the UFC, but it's a good card, guys. Jose Aldo, the King of Rio, is back. So that's May 2024 is in the books. June is next. One of the biggest pay-per-views and one of the biggest moments of the year happens up June of 2024. We are out of May.